My guest today is an amazing singer, songwriter, composer, guitar player, all of the above. He has a brand new album out with Ayreon called The Source on April 28th. I'm pleased to welcome back Arjen Lucassen.
Hi, Roy.
Hi, Arjen. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Good to speak with you again. It's been actually a few years.
I know. What was the last one? Was it Gentle Storm or
No, Theory of
longer?
Everything. Yeah,
Okay, Theory of
yeah.
Everything. Okay, yeah.
Back in 13, and I think you were one of the very first interviews we did on the website when we were just getting started. So
Oh, cool.
I'm sure that helped us get as big as we are today.
I'm sure of it.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so congratulations on everything. A new album coming up, The Source, April 28th. I mean, I've seen so much promotion and stuff going on online. It has
I
to
know.
be really exciting for you to get this thing out there soon.
It's yeah, wow, usually this is my insecure period, This is where I'm like, "Oh my God, it's gonna be it's gonna be released now. Oh, and it sucks. But reactions are so good this time, on YouTube, on the clip of the day the world breaks down, 300,000 views, and people love it, and reactions of the journalists so far, because I've done a lot of interviews now the last few months, are like really positive, and the pre-sales are the best ones we ever had. So yeah, it seems I made an okay album this time.
Finally.
Yeah, finally, it was about time, but I did it.
So, when you're dealing with, the album's been finished, I guess, for maybe a couple of months now, I would guess. Once it's done and you have this release date that's coming in a few months, what's that sort of those few months for you like? Are you dying to get it? You wish you could have put it out 2 months ago, or
Oh yeah, it's awful. I hate the waiting. Luckily now I'm doing a lot of promotions. I did a promotion tour in Holland, in Europe, in various countries, and lots of interviews here and there. So luckily there's plenty to do, but
right?
usually I hate it. Yeah, you want to finish it up and release it. Play it to the people. Let's see what they think. But yeah, the waiting is terrible. But this time we've also got the clips, to tide us over. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, speaking of that first video, I mean, that was an impressive shot right out of the gate. It's, the first track on the album, and a 12-minute sort of master epic with, I mean, so many people on that one song,
I know. Yeah.
Was that, so when you're writing this concept album, and I want to get to the writing of concept albums in particular with you, but, is it sort of the idea to get as many singers on the opening tracks to sort of set the stage on it, or was that the goal for this one?
I didn't really plan it, really. No, it was just I had the riff for that song, and then suddenly I had an intro for that song, and then I had a middle part for that song, and it just kept on growing into this monster of 12 minutes. And at some point I felt like, whoa, this track is really representative for the album. It has all the styles that are on the rest of the album.
Yeah.
So let's try to get all the singers in this one, and then we can release it as the first track. Make a video for it, a little bit of a behind the scenes video with lots of artwork and maybe some footage of the singers singing. And yeah, at some point I had that plan, and mainly because I want, to tell people that, listen, if you like this song, you're going to like the whole album. That's basically my thought behind it.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair there. Neil Morse, who is one of the, also like you, the writer of concept albums, I spoken to him a bunch of times, and he had a period where every album he released was this long concept album, and what he said about that was every time he went to write the next album, he said, "I'm not doing it again this time," and and inevitably it would become a long concept album because that just is what he does. Is that
Right.
Does that ever happen with you where, because you've had almost every one is practically a big long concept album. Do you ever sit down and say, okay, I'm not doing it. I'm not writing 2 CDs. I'm not making 2-hour album, and then it just happens?
Yes, I do that every time in between Ayreon albums. I could not do 2 Ayreon albums in a row. I never did that. I always need a few side projects in between. So I did like Ambion, and I did Guild Machine, I did Star One, I did The Gentle Storm, I did Stream of Passion. So yeah, I need something simpler in between. And it means limiting myself because, like Neil says, you start writing and it just grows and grows, and you don't plan it, but it just happens because you've
Yeah.
got all these ideas coming, and then you think like, oh, this singer would be great on that part, and this singer would, and before you know it, it's another 2 hour concept album. And yeah, but yeah, if I do a side project, I really have to limit myself. I have to say like, okay, I limit myself to one or two singers, and I limited myself to not using all these Ayreon sounds. If I do a Star One, it's like, okay, let's focus on the metal side of Ayreon, and let's not do any folky stuff and no violins and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah.
Try to explain the plot, I guess. What is this album about, and where did you get the idea?
It's well, the source is about the source of mankind. Where do we come from? Basically, that's the premise, and it's also about the dependence on technology, which seems to be reoccurring in my stories. And it was inspired actually by the artwork this time. I turned it around. Usually, I finish the whole album, and then I look for artwork, that fits the story. But this time it was like, okay, let's Google images, sci-fi, and let's see if there's artwork that inspires me to come up with a story. And luckily it happened. I saw the front cover, which has the lady underwater with the tubes, and I thought, that looks like a human being who is forced to live underwater. And then suddenly I got the idea, what if the Forever race was once human? And from that on, the whole story formed itself.
Yeah, and how long did it take you to do this one? When did you start writing it?
It's usually like a year,
Yeah.
but then it's like a full year. I mean, I don't have any holidays, or I don't have any weekends. It's really 365 days working constantly on this, totally focused.
Did you have, it's hard to remember, I guess. Maybe you have an idea better, I would guess. Is this the most guests you've had on an album?
No, it was even worse on 01011001. I had 17 singers on that
Okay.
one, which was too many. It just, I couldn't give them the space that they needed. Some of the singers I just couldn't show off, because there wasn't enough space. So no, that was the most I ever had.
It must make you feel great to have such big names and well respected singers that are always willing to help you, right, with their talents. I mean, this is
it's
major
fantastic.
people on here.
It's fantastic. This time I usually I have a rule, like with the Human Equation and with Theory of Everything. I had the rule: I want to work just with new singers, like singers I've never worked with before. But this time it was let's not limit myself. I want the best singers in the world, which means I will use singers that I've already worked with, simply because they are the best and I hear their voices on these parts. So it's about 50-50 on this album. It's 50% new singers and 50% singers that I've worked with before. But yeah, it's fantastic to be able with big names and great singers like this.
And one of them, of course, is James Labrie, who comes back again. What was working with him again like?
Well, he was the first singer I picked for this album. Actually, as you may do, he had the main part in the Theater Equation, which was a theater show of the album, The Human Equation.
Right.
And he did such a great job there. And I remember it was finished and we had a party afterwards, and I went to him. I said, James, if I ever do another album, and he didn't even let me finish my sentence. He was like, of course I'll be there, man. Just send it and I'll do it. And I needed his voice. I needed like a very emotional voice who would introduce the songs, and he was perfect for that.
Are most of them guys, when you're working with them, it's just through email and sending files? How often are you in the studio with these guys?
So far, with all my previous albums, I always flew everyone to my studio. So when he joined the Human Equation. He came from Canada to my studio, and we recorded a couple of days together. This time he did it in his own studio. So yeah, it's. I think people, it's getting easier, to send files and stuff, and people seem so busy these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is the first time that not many musicians actually came over.
Well,
I
you
think
could.
only 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, you can do full out. It's happening more and more. I mean, the that John Anderson, Roy Stolt album they did it
Right?
all
Yeah,
by never
yeah,
being
yeah.
together.
Right.
So
Yeah, but the thing is, the real magic happens when you're together.
yeah, of
There's always
course.
some chemistry going, and with the singers that were here, stuff happens that you didn't plan. And you work on it and you change stuff, and it's yeah. I think the result is better often, when you're together. Having said that. Some singers on this album really, really delivered, and I think it's also because they could do in their own time. They could spend plenty of time working on it and send it to me when they were perfectly happy. So there's something to say about the both ways.
Yeah, I mean, were there times when you got something back where it was completely not what you expected and it was
Yeah,
amazing?
yeah, it happens. It happens. Yeah, yeah. It happens also that I just don't like it.
Right.
And that's awful because then you have to tell them like, oh man, sorry man, I don't like that. Can you try differently? Or sometimes it's just not good enough. You have to cancel someone. That really hurts. That's awful. But yeah, it happened this time that I got it, and it was like, oh my God, this could not have been better if the person was in my studio here.
Do you get calls after you've already started the project where someone says, "Hey, Arjen, why didn't you call me? I want to be on the album. I heard you're working on something."
Yeah, well, I get that every week basically. Yeah, no, people who want to be on it, and I have to make choices. Of course, it's terrible, and I would like to work with I mean, my wish list is like 100 people or something,
Right.
at least. So yeah, there's so many people to work with. It's a luxury problem because when I started out, it was hard to get these people. No one knew me.
Right.
So you really have to convince them one by one, and this is a luxury position where actually singers are offering themselves. That's fantastic.
Also, I mean, guitarists that you have on here, Paul Gilbert and Guthrie Govan and some of those guys, Mark Kelly and awesome. I mean, musically, not the singers, but musically, how did it happen to get some of those other guys play on the album?
Well, my previous album was very keyboard oriented. It was very much my prog album. It had members of Yes, King Crimson, Genesis, Emerson, Lake and Palmer. It had keyboard players like Rick Wakeman, Keith Emerson, Jordan Rudess, and so this time I wanted to make a guitar oriented album, and I simply wanted the best guitar players that I could think of.
Yeah.
So I thought about, the old days, who was like the master. Of course, Paul Gilbert was. And right now, who do I think is the best guitar player in the world? Well, Guthrie Govan. What he did with Steven Wilson was just amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I contacted them both via the record company. This record company released a couple of Paul Gilbert albums, so that was an easy way in. It was via his manager, and he had to listen to the part. Of course, he liked the part, and Guthrie Govan was, I think, via the American record company guy who knew him personally, and he said, "Well, send it to me, and I'll see if it inspires me." And luckily, it did, because he played one of the best solos that I ever heard. Really, yeah, I
Yeah,
got it, and
he's amazing, absolutely.
oh yes.
Yeah. Where does where do you rank this album if you can? You have a sort of a favorites that you've done and where you think this one lies for you?
It's way too early to say. I cannot be objective about this one.
That's
No,
a
really.
smart way. A lot of guys, you always hear musicians come out and say, "This is the best album I've ever done," which is
No,
always
no,
a tricky thing when you hear that, right?
no, I can't say that at all. No, I can say that maybe in 5 years or
Right,
something.
right, right.
And even then, I can't. It depends on your mood, and um, it depends on what memories you have of an album. Like I remember um, when I did 01, I was really depressed. It was a horrible time for me. I was on pills, and I remember that of that album, So I look at it differently, and now it can be more objective about the album if I hear it. But well, basically, I'm proud of every Ayreon album I did. Really, I made some crappy albums really outside of Ayreon. There's some albums I think, oh my God, what was I thinking? Especially in the '80s, that was such a difficult, such a dangerous time, the '80s, with all these digital drum samples and stuff, and not to mention the '80s hairdo and
Right.
the '80s spandex and shit. If I see that now, I think, oh my God, what was I thinking? But with Ayreon, I don't have that at all. I'm really really proud of every album, and so ranking is really impossible for me.
That's a very diplomatic answer, but I think you're probably right. It's always good to take some time and wait, and then see how
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
something lasts. Do you
Oh
pay
yes.
attention to other concept albums that come out? Particularly like the Dream Theater did one last year, the
Oh
Astonishing.
yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
listen to that stuff and see what other people are doing?
Of course. Yeah, no, I don't understand musicians saying like we don't listen to other music because we don't want to be influenced. It's for me. It's like please influence me. Yeah, please. I would never copy it, of course, but no, I want to. Of course, I still love the music from my formative years, 60s and 70s and stuff like that. That's still my favorite stuff, but I really, really want to keep updated. And I read a lot of magazines, and when I see something is album of the month, I would always, always listen to it. I usually do that when I go jogging,
Right.
I listen to all this new stuff and check it out. And yeah, no, I don't want to be stuck in the past at all. I want to. Same with my music. I mean, it's of course it's inspired by my '70s heroes,
Yeah.
but I want to make it sound like now.
Yeah, I mean, there's some amazing moments on this. It really, sort of puts you in another world when you're listening to it. As your music always tends to do, I think. And I mean, I think fans will definitely dig it. I wanted to ask you about, streaming and digital downloading and stuff like that. Does that affect you as an artist as much? Because I feel like your fans, based on the kind of music you put out,
Hmm.
they probably want to own it, right? And want to have the package and listen to it from beginning to end. Streaming sort of isn't really, I think, a solution to someone that's a fan for you, right?
I thought it would be a danger when it happened. I was like, oh my God, what's happening here? Because I don't know if you know, but I think musicians get zero point zero zero zero
Yeah, I've
zero
heard.
two nine cents per stream, but it means they have to download it. They have to stream it like 5 million times to have a minimum income or something a
Right.
day. So yeah, it was like, oh my God, this is the end. This is the end. I even wrote a song about it on my solo album. Like what was it called? The E-Police, I think. Like it's over now, that's it. But now we're doing the pre-sales of my new album, and it's the best pre-sale ever. I mean, we made this beautiful big yearbook, with 48 pages and 5 CDs in it, and it was limited. We thought, wow, let's order a lot of them, and they were sold out within a month,
Wow.
and yeah, biggest pre-sale so far. So I think you're right. I have like a really really loyal following who have my previous albums, so they want their collection complete, and also they know that I will always spoil them, try to
Right.
spoil them by giving them worth for their money and giving them great artwork and giving them a great behind the scenes and DVD with all extra stuff. And yeah, you should, every release you do, you should like totally spoil them, and so they will just believe you, that they will unconditionally buy it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few artists. Prog tends to lend itself to that, I think, which has been one of the reasons why it's still thriving. Artists like Steven Wilson and people like that do that type of
Right.
packaging and look at it
Yes.
from a larger scale. So it says, okay, so if I'm only going to buy 3 or 4 CDs a year, I'm going to buy these
That's
because,
it. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because I'm
Maybe
getting something.
Yeah, maybe it's good for us to streaming. It gives people more money to buy my shit.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's a positive way to look at it.
What what other stuff are you sort of looking at musically that's not on the massive prog scale, or that do you ever just step away from it and you take a couple weeks off and just do something completely different, watch football only, or how do you know?
Um, no, it's all music for me. Really, it's awful. I'm a really one-track minded person. I do try to keep my evenings free. I mean, I have no holidays, I have no weekends. I work 365 days a year, but my evenings are holy. So evenings, I like to watch TV and cool TV series. Like I'm watching Walking Dead now. I love
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's what I do to blow off steam and musically, yeah. Basically, in the day, it's hard for me to listen to prog and metal with the fans' ears, and I hate that. It's a shame. I know too much about it. I'm too close to the fire. I start dissecting stuff
Right.
if I hear it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really hard to enjoy music that's close to mine. So in the evening, I just listen to like totally different music. Like I listen to Simon and Garfunkel, and and the Beatles and stuff like that. And during the day, I listen to when I go jogging, I listen to new stuff. So more the prog and the metal side, but more as a musician, not really as a fan anymore, unfortunately.
Sure. Well, that happens. You get too far into something, and that's what
I
happens.
know, and I was always afraid of it that it would happen. I was so, oh, don't let it happen to me, but it did, and it's a shame. It's a shame, but there's still enough music for me from the old days to enjoy. So
Sure. Well, man, listen. Thank you so much. Always great to speak with you. I hope we don't wait another 4 years to do it. And
oh man, no, let's do it for the next release. Let's make a
absolutely.
plan.
And I think you have a huge success on your hands here with the source. So everybody
I
should go
hope
check
so,
that out.
man. It feels good. The
All right,
omens are
man.
good.
Great. All right. I'll be in touch. Thank you, man.
Boy. Cool, man.
All right.
Bye bye.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thanks to Arjen for the interview. We're going to close with a track off the source, which comes out April 28th. This is Everybody Dies. For upcoming news and interviews, please check theprogreport.com, follow us on Facebook, at The Prog Report on Twitter, or download the podcast on iTunes. Thanks.
The world goes boom, none will be spared. So don't assume that ragged clothes, no silver spoon. You're all the same when extinction looms.
No food supplies, no water supplies, power supplies, or other supplies. No compromise, just say goodbye, and everybody dies. No explanation, no clarification, no information, justification. Forget the why, just cover your eyes. And